Welcome to the Meat and Potatoes podcast. Today we're here with Justin Rae, who's the founder at Cinch. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am good, thank you.
Good.
I like the name Cinch. Let's start with that and then founding story.
Okay.
Where did the name come from?
Cinch, actually, we started off with the name Sagacity. Back in our very, very early days, we were going for the clever. We could get sagacity.com. We could get, it was a name that wasn't very common. And eventually we learned that people didn't know how to read the word sagacity. They wanted to call it Saga City. And so we ended up deciding we needed to change it. And myself and Jared, one of the co-founders at Cinch, we sat down with our wives and another friend who was helping us get started and tried to come up with a name. We had a list of 5. We tried it out, and Cinch was on that name. And really interesting story of that was at the time a company called Favorite Eats was around here locally, and they were looking to sell, and so we were contemplating purchasing them, and we realized in there the due diligence that they actually owned Cinch.io and a trademark with it. And to us, we thought, hey, done deal. We should be Cinch, and went from there. So we haven't looked back.
Yeah. And ultimately, you want to make marketing Cinch,
Yep,
right?
Exactly. Make it a Cinch.
It's always nice when the name works out. Founding story.
Yeah, so I've started several businesses before, and in doing those, it was always a matter of trying to find the right data and being able to use that data in the ways that are most effective. And then in between the businesses that I had started and starting the next one, I'd do consulting, and you'd put together these insights and really figure out some really fun, cool things for people, and then you'd deliver those insights, and they would never do anything with that data, right? And so what we really were trying to do at Cinch was how do we make something that's really flexible to allow people to have good, clean data, and then be able to commoditize some of the data science aspects that come with that, and then be able to use it immediately. And so that's where Cinch came, is the ability for us to use the data, put it together in a low-code, no-code way to deliver communication to customers with it.
All right. So this sounds like a good fit for if I had a golf club company, and I was good at making the golf clubs, but not good at sending emails, marketing, figuring out how to get customers through the door or on the website. This would be a good fit for me in this theoretical equation, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So what we'd basically do in a situation like that is we'd connect to whatever point of sale or transactional data you have. Maybe if you have a CRM, we'd connect to all the different data sources that you have, from transactional data to customer data, bringing that into Cinch. We then clean that data up, normalize it. So if you had 2 or 3 different systems, it's going to all be common or normal across the different data fields. And then we'd run different predictive models over top of it. So we might predict, what type of clubs you really like, or what your club preference is. How often are you purchasing clubs? Maybe how often you're buying balls, or whatever other ancillary products you might have. Or, and then we'd be looking at things like what your pricing sensitivity is. Do you always purchase when there's a discount, or do you not care and you just buy whenever you can? So we put all that data together, and then we have inside of Cinch what we call pre-built journeys or pre-built templates that allow you to be able to say, hey, I want to do an abandoned cart, or I want to be able to send off to a customer whenever they purchase this item. I want to send this survey to them to get feedback. Maybe we send the golf club off to them, and we wait 6 weeks, and then we ask them for some feedback. Do they like the club? What did they like, or what didn't they like? And start to build feedback from that. And then you can use the data that you get from the surveys and keep building on that. So
amazing. For me, it seems not so much of a game of chess, but more like a game of poker, trying to sell stuff to people. There's hundreds of variables, right? You just mentioned a few. For companies to be successful with all of the data and all of the ways they can communicate, it's a lot to manage, and most people couldn't do it, right? But with Cinch, it is manageable for them.
Yeah. So we basically make it so that you can create those really direct one-to-one campaigns that can be customized throughout the entire experience. So not just when we're reaching out to somebody, but it could be more specifically what the content of your email is, right? So we have a lot of customers in the automotive space, specifically a lot of the quick lubes, Jiffy Lube in one very particular case locally. If you've been to Jiffy Lube, you're more than likely to have received an email or a postcard or even a text message from us. And so you'll notice in those emails that the content of the email isn't just, we're going to call out you and your vehicle and say, hey, here's the year, make, and model of your car, but here are the things that maybe you declined on that service. And so we're bringing that in, and we can entirely change the content of the emails based off of your experience and your behaviors.
So with those examples, it seems a little bit more like SMB or Ma and Pa. I'm assuming you guys could do it for anyone, but when we're kind of sourcing speakers for Summit or doing stuff that we do to plan events, like we'll go to companies' websites, and I can always tell that I'm in their vortex with like emails and stuff. But these are big, sophisticated, well-capitalized companies that probably have more resources than kind of Main Street or SMBs. Is that the case with your customer base? Like that's who you target?
Yeah, so we try to target the mid market right now. We definitely want to be able to commoditize a lot of the ability to use that data, right? One of the things Jared says a whole bunch is he doesn't want to live in a world of McDonald's, and I think that's a great way to think about it, right? Is how do we bring some of these successful companies and help them compete with the big McDonald's or the big companies in the world? And so we definitely have some enterprise deals that are really great, and we work with them, and they're wonderful customers. How do we help kind of that middle market be able to compete? And then we spend a lot of time and energy in the company focused on working with them. So
yeah. So I'll just kind of keep using examples here. If you go to your favorite hamburger joint and you walk in and you pay with cash and walk out, not a lot of data points there, right?
yeah.
But if you redeemed a QR code or you paid with your phone, if you signed up for an email newsletter, those data points start to accumulate.
Yep.
And you guys would be able to build on those with all the other stuff that you've got going on, right?
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. So every time you have some sort of transaction, it doesn't need to be a financial transaction, right? It can just be that transaction of signing up for the email newsletter, or it could be scan the QR code to get a coupon for today, right? Even if you scan that QR code, get the coupon for today, pay in cash and walk out, right? There's still a data point there. And as soon as we have the ability to match that up with another data point, we just start to build the profile that we have. And those profiles of those behaviors help us then be able to predict, what type of behavior, is this person. If somebody's paying with cash today, they probably are trying to stay off the grid a little bit, right? And they're at least that'd be my prediction. But those are things that we then can use to better understand what other behaviors they might have.
Yeah. So as far as like human behaviors in general, you would have a really good idea of how humans behave just based on Cinch.
I mean, I have a good idea how the data tells me they behave, but I just looked at the data to help understand it. But yeah.
And, we're in 2023, so that's texting, emailing, mailers, ads.
Yeah.
What else? What am I forgetting?
Yeah, so we'll do text messages. We can do two-way text messaging with that. It's not just a blast. Email, the direct mail, and again, direct mail. It's not specifically dead. A lot of people think that it's a totally dead art for marketing, but I actually think it takes a lot more savvy marketing to be able to use direct mail. But it can be very powerful if you use that right. Especially if you use that in conjunction with things like your full campaign, right? So you have email, direct mail, Google ads, Facebook ads. Within Cinch, we can also run audio ads, do programmatic purchase on ad space on podcasts or iHeartRadio, Pandora. We just actually partnered with a really cool company called Mailbox Power out of, I'm not sure if you guys have had them on or heard of them. They're out of Bluffdale. And they basically make it so we can send a box of brownies to a customer, some cookies or popcorn, or just a customized postcard with some chapstick or something simple in it, right? And so there's just a lot of things that we can automate in those channels to create really good customer experiences.
Yeah. And if you're not like paying attention, if you're not up to speed, or if you just don't care, this would seem like magic, right? For a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like, how did I get this postcard? Why did I get this box of cookies? Why do they know this, right?
Yeah, I think I think maybe it's becoming a little less in the world where you've got Amazon and Google that's listening to you everywhere and picking up ads. But yeah, I think there's definitely that experience of, wow, that was really cool. When I got this brownie from somebody because they tell me thank you, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in and transacting with them or whatever it might be.
Yeah. And for the companies that engage with you guys as customers, um, are they like pretty naive and green when they engage? Are they semi-sophisticated? Where do they generally come in?
Oh man, all over the board on that one. However, the ones that come in that have just some idea tend to pick it up and get running with it a lot faster. The ones that don't have a lot of marketing experience out there, they will typically come in and use our software. We have a lot of pre-built things, and we'll sell like post transactions, reminders, things along those lines. And we'll just turn on journeys for them, and they set it and forget it. They maybe log in just to see the reports, maybe update an email template, but then the customers that are really sophisticated, they get in and they geek out and get all giddy over all the things that they can do, and that gets really fun. Is when you get people that have really big imaginations on the things that they want to be able to do, and it's especially fun when they're able to pull it off in Cinch and they can do it in an afternoon, right? Put together a campaign that might have taken them a whole week's worth of man hours to put it together.
Yeah. So it probably helps them in knowing who their audience is, right? Because if you've got a product or a service, technically all 8 billion people on planet Earth could be a customer, which is not the case.
Yeah.
How often are they surprised at who their customers are and where they come through?
That's a good question. I probably haven't seen too much surprise on that. I think the people that care kind of have a good idea already, and the people that don't care don't even care when they get to find out, right? Or when they start to look in there and see. So I can't say that I've really seen many people get shocked by that.
Yeah.
I know I've been shocked sometimes when I'm looking. I'm like, oh, I would have expected that to be this type of person. And they're like, oh yeah, we've learned that through this process or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine there's all sorts of fun insights that you guys get to see where it's like, well, this is what we thought, but look who's actually buying it, when they buy it, and how they interact with it. So from when the customer reaches out for the first time to when they become a customer, what's the onboarding like? When you click the on button, how quick do they start to get dialed in on what they're trying to accomplish?
Man, I got to give a big shout out to Annika, our director of customer success. She came in and she made an entirely awesome process for that. So we can typically onboard somebody in about 2 hours, do a 1 to 2 hour phone call, and we can onboard a customer. So and get them up and rolling and get going. She's done a really good job of getting the time to value down. So even on like a big clients, in fact, we're onboarding a brand right now that's got 600 locations across the country, and we'll probably have all 600 locations onboarded and rolling by the end of this month. We started April 3rd, and so that just goes to show, like, from if we can do 600 in in less than 30 days, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And for you guys, like the customers are paying you for your service and all of the sweat equity and all the technology. Does it boil down to like, what's my ROI on this if I don't do it versus the ROI if I do it? How do you guys like show them here's the value, you're going to get a great ROI?
Yeah. So that's typically the way. It's really easy to be like, okay, hey, look, we're going to automate this. It's going to just run automatically for you. If you don't do this, you're definitely going to be missing out. You can use different tools to do that. The advantage you have in Cinch is you have the flexibility to be able to do it in the way that you want or make changes to it very easily and quickly. But when you get some of those really more advanced customers, they're able to start realizing that, hey, you know what, I can do things inside of Cinch that I've wanted to do, maybe with tools like Zapier. I've got a whole bunch of zaps put together to automate this process. But inside of Cinch, we can go ahead and we can make this process a whole lot easier and in one place and one tool, and keep the data centralized in that aspect. And so for those customers, they start to realize value that is outside of what we tell them when we sell it. And that becomes something that's really exciting, because we at Cinch know that value exists, but that value isn't going to be the same for you as it would be for another company and another company, right? And So we focus on verticals right now in our sales and our marketing process is basically going into a vertical and saying in this vertical, this is exactly how we know Cinch will deliver value for you and bring up that and sell that aspect. So like in golf courses, managing tee time reminders or managing, hoping to remind somebody, on the ninth hole to come order food, whatever it might be, birthday campaigns. In the automotive space, we'll do service reminders. You're due for an oil change, your timing belt. Thank you for coming in. We can do Google reviews, send a request afterwards to encourage somebody to leave a review and respond back or have auto responses back to that. And so all of those things are things that we'll just directly sell to the customer. But then when they get in, they start to find ways that they can create new value inside of Cinch by using the tool.
Very cool. And surely somebody's going to invent some new way to market and communicate with customers, and you guys will just adapt to that and put it
Yeah.
into your platform.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the I think maybe you saw some of it on our website, but we've got what we call tiles, just these little square blocks that you drag and drop and you coordinate how you want to orchestrate your own marketing campaign and put it together. And so if there's some new channel that comes that's out there new, Snapchat that's going to come out or TikTok that we want to push people into for different ad audiences, right? It's very easy for us to build, connect to their APIs and build that integration that just push the data that they need into it and get back the data. So it's become very flexible for us in that manner.
Yeah. So now this is starting to sound like magic to me, right? um, because it's all on that dashboard, right?
Yeah.
And you said low code or no code, right? It sounds
Yep.
like anybody
Yeah.
can do it.
Yep.
And
Yes.
they see the results pretty quick, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, I would feel pretty confident that if we went and sat down with a computer, I could maybe take 10, 15 minutes and show you the general concepts, and you could build something out that maybe help get the podcast out further, or, let announcements come out for, hey, the podcast just dropped, shoot it off to all these people via text or email, or put them into ad audiences, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Quite the industry.
Yeah.
Very cool. Where did you guys decide to start out? Was it any of the businesses, or was there certain verticals and industries you thought would be fertile?
Yeah. So I had a lot of background. My business just prior to this was in the automotive space. But I thought, hey, you know what? If I could do something similar to this in the automotive, let me go try it in some other space. So we went and we actually tried it in home services with carpet cleaning. And we did a great job there, but I didn't know the space as well as I knew automotive. And so we kind of shifted back to automotive and sold there. But as we've gone through with that, we found some really great partners that have helped us open up new verticals. So we have customers in automotive, automotive repair, golf courses, climbing gyms, companies like F45. We have restaurants and pest control. In fact, today we had a killer day. One of our new sales guys, Gary, just closed four pest control deals today, and that was it's a record in pest control already. So we're seeing a lot of motion there.
Very cool. For the average sales cycle, do you guys do yearly contracts? Is it month by month? How did you guys ultimately land on what would be the best?
Yeah, so we've landed on an annual contract, and mostly because in a lot of marketing campaigns, especially in the automotive space, it's hard to say, hey, after 1 month, you're gonna definitely see this kind of return, right? Some of these campaigns actually take a couple months to get rolling. But then really with the value of Cinch, we want somebody to get in there and actually have time. And if you see the value when you're getting in and you start using it, then you know that this is going to be something you'll probably stick with. And we have incredibly low churn, very, very low, to the tune of less than 1%. Last year it was less than 2% in total. So it's been really great from that aspect.
Yeah, that's always a good number. You mentioned golf courses, right? You've got private courses, and then you have county and municipal courses.
Yeah.
Do you guys go bottom up or top down? Generally, what works best?
Yeah, so in golf courses, we actually, I don't know if you guys know 4Up, local
Mhm.
local company here. We partner with them, and that's really where we get most of our references and work with them from that aspect. But in the automotive and climbing gyms, we would typically try to just focus on that middle, and then the word of mouth gets us. We kind of actually go up the chain a little bit because of that. and that becomes pretty valuable.
Yeah. And do you find that like competitors will see that, their specific competitors starting to do things and looks like they've got some magic thing
Yeah.
happening, and then they might become a customer as well?
Yeah, actually, I mean, it's maybe they are technically competitors, but what's really cool in the automotive space, there's they have these mastermind 20 groups, right? And I don't know if that's spread into many other industries, but these 20 groups get together and they're technically competitors, right? But they're not really competing in the same area, so they don't overlap geographically. And when they get together, they'll talk about the things that are doing working really well for them, and then we get invited to go talk, go share what we're doing because this company and the 20 groups doing a great job and they're able to do this and they have all the success and things. And so we'll go and say, hey, this is how they're implementing it. Here's why it's working. And more people in those 20 groups will be interested in Cinch and helps us grow that way. Now, what's really great is when it's within those groups, they're focused on how do I grow? How do I keep improving and doing things better?
Man, they've kind of just teed that up for you.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Here's a group of
20 people come talk to them.
fire away.
Yeah.
That makes it easier.
Yep.
Very cool. How big is your team now?
So we have 25.
25.
And we got 2 more that are going to be starting in the next 2 weeks from now.
Very cool. And how have you guys, like, over the years figured out, like, what the pricing would be, what works, what's too much, too little? Is that an art or a science for you guys?
Oh, I wish it was a science, but it's definitely been more of an art. One of our board members, Paul Brown, he always harps on us for price and trying to figure out how that price is. And I mean, it basically went, let's sell it at this price. Next deal, try to sell a little bit more and sell it until we start to lose deals or, people are saying no because of price. And then we kind of dial it back and find a place that fits in that. And that's really it's been hard because our product is a little more unique than most other products. I can't go out and just say, hey, compare it to somebody else that's doing something very similar, right? Because the closest thing might be like HubSpot, right? The HubSpot marketing hub, and trying to pair it off of that. But a lot of people have no clue, and that's a new pricing model even to them. So we've kind of had to figure out along those lines. But yeah, it's been an art.
Interesting. Easy to talk about, but tough to implement, right?
Yeah. Yep.
The textbooks usually don't hold water, and you just got to
Yeah.
work through it. You guys are a startup, and I assume you have empathy for all of your customers, and that a lot of them might be startups or just ma and pa. And
Yeah.
what do you guys learn on your side of the business operations and the team building that you can then transfer over to your customers?
Yeah, actually, I mean, we use Cinch for ourselves. I really hate the phrase "eat our own dog food." I come from a ranching background, so I like to say we eat our own steaks at Cinch.
There you
So
go.
we use Cinch within our own marketing, and that gives us a lot of insight, right, on how we can apply that with other customers. Very different industries, but a lot of those practices and procedures are still very common. But I think some of the real common aspects is being able to understand the cost to acquire customers, the lifetime value of your customers. I mean, we calculate within Cinch what the value of those customers are on a relative basis to all your other customers. And so those types of things help us when we're able to talk through with the customer, like, hey, this is how we apply that. And it's been really fun to watch as our team gets to know how to use Cinch themselves and get in and they can build and put together their own journeys and then they can work with our customers on like, hey, I'm applying this. And so the unique experiences that our customer success team has had and able to bring to the table is really great to see how that changes once they have a tool like Cinch and they can apply things that they know about the industry or experiences they've had in business.
Very cool. There's a lot of data out there, right? And certain people have better data. Certain groups or organizations might have a ton of data that they don't utilize. In this world, and I'm not familiar with it, of partnerships with like data. Is that a part of what Cinch does? Strategic partnerships that you can layer on the data?
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of, we don't believe that we have to be the one tool that, it'd be great because a lot of that data, but we want to centralize the data. We want to be the one source for at least the data, right? You might use somebody else that you're going to do, right? Like Mailbox Power, right? We're not going to build Mailbox Power, but having the ability to work with them and their data. So we'll send data back and forth between the two platforms and try to keep all the source data inside of Cinch, so you know how that runs. And then we have data partners. We work with a company called Data Axle, their data aggregator, and be able to bring in, enrich the customer data, know more about your customers and their behaviors outside of your company. But you can also use that for prospecting data if you want to try to find, hey, we want to find more customers that, have dogs, live within this zip code, and have 2 kids at home, right? We can pull that data in, and then we can run, you basically run everything inside of Cinch except email and text messaging to customers like that.
So there you go. If you live in a certain geographic zip code and you've got 2 dogs and you start to get flyers,
Yep.
there's your answer.
Yeah. You know how they found you. Yep.
Are there any like data sets or partnerships that is just like the Shangri-La of like, boy, if we could ever get those, we would really be cooking?
Oh man, I've got a few of those, but it's probably not good to share them on in public. But yeah, there's a lot of really cool things that are out there. But one, I'll just maybe one that was really cool that we put together early on, and then the company that we were working with didn't like how we were using the data. They were a startup that basically allowed you to triangulate where a phone's at in a physical space in a 1 cube meter, and we were basically creating a zone around the cash register and identifying the IDs of the phones that were checking out, and then tying that back to the actual person having the transaction. So then when they walked around inside the physical store, we could actually see, oh, they stopped in front of this area for this period of time. We could start to see what their browsing habits were inside the store. And that was pretty fun, but some, the vendor we were using to track and get that data thought it was a little too creepy, and they were out of California and thought the privacy laws were come down a little too hard there. So
yeah, interesting. So if you buy more things than what you intended to, there's your answer as well, right?
Yeah.
Very cool. All of this, obviously takes a great team and a great idea and probably a little bit of money. You guys have done some fundraising, right?
Yep.
For those that are going to do that, what is some advice that you can share on what worked well for you and what didn't?
Oh man, that I feel like we got lucky, but we made a whole lot of pitches, like a lot of people, and trying to do that. This is our seed round. So our history with that was we did a little friends and family. Jared and I actually funded the majority of us getting started. And then we did a friends and family, and Jared and I put a good amount of money into that again. But then we had an angel investor that came in, really helped us get going from that, and then really it was off to the races from there. We knew we had the goal. We had to get to $1 million in ARR before we could raise a seed round. And so we had 3-4 people on the team at the time. And so it was trying to do sales, run the product, and pitch is a real pitch to investors, a real slog, right? There's a lot of time and effort and exhaustion that goes into that. But I really think just being persistent, keeping at it, because all it takes is just one investor to find your product, see the value, and believe in you, right? And they have so many pitches and so many things going through across their plate that if you don't stand out to them, you gotta move on to the next one, right? Or find a way to stand out to them.
Yeah.
And so we were pretty fortunate in the end. We found. We worked with Lionel Partners, and they led our seed round and helped us. They've been phenomenal. So
very cool. And but you guys have kind of an advantage, right? Like you could use Cinch to remind the investors
yeah.
that you pitched recently or whatever
Yeah.
you want, right? Very
Yep.
cool. As you build the team, where do you, as the CEO, focus your energies? Is it on the product? Is it in marketing? Is it just keeping your head above the water? Where's
Yeah.
your focus?
Yeah, I actually try to be very focused on not living in a space where I'm just keeping my head above water, right? And there's definitely been times where that's been the case, but if I can at least be forward thinking, think about what's going to prevent us from always living in that space, has been something I've spent a lot of time doing. And I think, one thing you can't be a company that's trying to spend money in all your departments, right? If you do that, then you're going to be focused less than you need to on one of those. And so, in the early days of Cinch, we were very heavily focused on product, right? With what we built and we put together, there was a lot of need to have a really solid product. And so, up until our seed round, we were heavily focused on the product. And then with investors coming in, we shifted some of that focus to sales and trying to just show that, hey, we can build the sales machine, we can put this together and grow it. And now we're starting to shift some of that back to product and being able to have a pretty solid product. But I think from my position, I'm definitely a more product-based CEO than a sales CEO. That's my background. That's my passion. However, I'm starting to really learn to love sales. It's a lot of fun when you work with those people through the whole process. So
Yeah. What was the what were you most happy to delegate?
sales.
Sales.
Yeah. Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What are your guys' plans for the next 6 to 12 months? What do you got coming down the chute?
Yeah, we've got some exciting product roadmap stuff and being able to do some customized landing pages. Think about the dynamic aspects that you can have in an email, but you could do the same thing on a landing page where somebody has an entirely customized landing page. Doing really fun closed loop attribution for new customer acquisition, or what we call the prospect data model. Basically being able to use that data from Data Axle or other sources to understand who the customers are that we want to target, and then we target them, and then when they show up in your database, we're able to say, hey, this was attributed to this whole campaign here. But we've got a lot of really fun things on the data side. We're actually in a couple weeks going to release an entirely new UI that we've been working on. Looking pretty forward to that.
Awesome. It's always a good feeling when you're like meeting your objectives.
Yeah. Yep.
You run Cinch, but you're also just a normal person here on planet Earth, and people are going to try to sell you stuff, right?
Yep.
Do you know if it's a Cinch customer that's trying to sell it?
I imagine I would. We're starting to get to that point where I don't know all of our customers, but at least see their names in enough places that I would know. And we do tend to, most of our customers are B2C customers, mostly because that's where we focus on selling it. So I probably wouldn't see that, but it'll be interesting the day when I start getting emails that I'm like, oh, that came from us to me.
Yeah. You're like, man, I want to go buy this. Dang it. Why do it's because it's my company.
It's coming. Yeah. It will actually be really interesting. I think, maybe when that day comes, I'd probably give any of our customers, I'd probably give them time anyways, just if they're using us to come pitch me and let me hear what their product is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's got to be fun as well, right? You
Yeah.
get to see what everyone out is doing out there, and that's always fun.
Yeah.
To see innovation and watch people do cool things.
Yep.
Really cool. Well, I've learned a lot, and I will be cognizant a little bit more when I'm in this vortex. But I do appreciate all the work and the science and all of that that's gone into it. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us, Justin.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.